What up, peeps? It is March 11th, 2021. I'm Dave Rubin. This is the Rubin Report. Direct message live from Los Angeles. Although I can't say sunny Los Angeles because it's hailing outside right now. That's right, we are in the midst of at least one of the 10 plagues. I'm pretty sure there's a couple others going on. Was homelessness one of the 10 plagues? Was rampant drug use and horrible traffic and roads that are crumbling? Were any of those part of the 10 Commandments? Because we're in the midst of it right now. And I think God is sending a message to our dear leader, Gavin Newsom, who's being recalled, people. It's pretty spectacular. Over 2 million signatures. We only needed 1.5. And in 5 days from now, 3/16/2021, that was the last date to get all the signatures. Things are looking good. I'm feeling good about it. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. As always, just a quick reminder to click that subscribe button and that notification bell so you see our videos. And as you know, we are live 5 days a week at 11 a.m. Pacific, which it's 11 a.m. Pacific right now. So that the proof's in the pudding, people. We are doing a Q&A right now from our Rubin Report Locals community. We got over 200 questions, I think, so we just grabbed whatever we could. I did a quick scan of them, and we got some politics, we got some lifestyle, we got some fun stuff, some silly stuff. We'll get to all of that. I did want to do one story up top before we get to it, because as you guys probably know, the jury selection for the George Floyd trial, or the trials actually, obviously, for the police officer accused of George Floyd, is happening right now. I was actually on Newsmax this morning with Alan Dershowitz, who's obviously the Harvard law professor and one of the most esteemed legal experts in the country, talking about the specifics of the trial. And one of the interesting things that's happened is that Attorney General Keith Ellison, who is a really far left sort of crazed progressive, who you may remember had once put a picture up on Twitter with an Antifa book. So this is a guy, he's telling you what he believes. He's now the Attorney General of Minnesota, and he actually was almost the head of the Democratic National Party. He missed it by like 2 or 3 votes or something. But in essence, he now is going for a 3rd-degree murder charge. And what's happening is you can sort of see that this whole thing is being set up so he's going to get acquitted basically of 3rd-degree murder, because 3rd-degree murder, without getting too much into all of the specifics, but you should do a little Googling on your own. In essence, 3rd-degree murder is like if you drove your car intentionally into a crowd of people to kill a lot of people, or you started firing into a crowd intentionally, just maiming people. 1st degree and 2nd degree, that's probably what's more applicable in this. But Keith Ellison is throwing that 3rd-degree charge in there in a way, in my estimation at least, because he wants riots and he knows that this will make it harder to convict. And thus, when he doesn't get convicted of all of the things, even if he gets convicted of 1st degree and 2nd degree murder, which probably will happen, if he doesn't get convicted of 3rd degree, that will be the excuse for the violence. And it is my belief at this point that the progressive wing of the Democratic Party wants violence. They want there to be mayhem. Those are their foot soldiers. So I saw this video yesterday and we thought it was worth playing, and then we'll get into as many questions as possible. There is an autonomous zone. Remember the autonomous zone up in Seattle where laws don't apply and people are not allowed in unless the autonomous zone people let you in, and people get murdered there and a whole bunch of bad stuff? Well, they've got one now in Minneapolis. Let's take a look.
This area behind me is the George Floyd Memorial. This is where George Floyd was killed back in May. Take a look. These barricades have been set up by protesters and supporters of the movement. They don't allow anyone in, not even the police. It's called an autonomous zone. And
you're going to be in a bad situation here in a second.
oh, I thought if we were on this side of the barricade.
No, you're going to be in a bad situation in a second.
What do you mean by
because
bad
you've been called out
situation?
for what you are and you need to get out of here.
Please go.
Even on
We
this side of the
know
barricade.
what you are. You need to get in your car and go.
We're just media.
I don't give a who you are.
Go ahead
You've been
and go.
called out for who you are. You need to get in your car and go.
It's very tense near the memorial, and a militant-style group has closed off several blocks with barricades.
All right, so that video is from NewsNation Now, and let's just be clear about something. Those 2 people that are wandering around the autonomous zone pretending that they're kings or whatever they are, they should be arrested. And anyone there that is in there that is taking over a street, not letting police officers, I mean, how does that even make sense? Even that very statement that police aren't allowed there. Like, this is stuff that happens in third world countries that are run by gangsters. This is not stuff that is supposed to happen in the United States of America. That is happening in Minneapolis, in Minnesota, right now. And we just sort of sit there and we watch it and we go, oh, I guess that's kind of okay. So already Keith Ellison, the Attorney General of Minnesota, he already is in dereliction of duties, in my humble opinion, and I suppose probably in legal opinion as well, right? Like, he should be sending his police in there and saying to these people, well, we're arresting you because you can't just set up your own autonomous zones. You can't just set up your own places with your own laws in a city in the United States of America. But I don't think progressives really believe in law and order, right? Well, they'll believe in it once they put everybody away in the gulags and then, they silence everybody else. But in essence, we are already saying the laws of the United States don't matter. That's what's happening in Minneapolis right now. It ain't good, and I think you're gonna see, but clip this video, even my haters that are watching this, and I know you're there from Media Matters and Vox and Daily Beast, and you're just waiting for me to say something that you can clip out of context. Mark my words that when he gets acquitted of the third-degree murder situation, that there is going to be mass violence, and that's exactly what Keith Ellison wants. That is my belief. I hope and pray to God that I'm wrong. I really do, because I don't want political violence, unlike most of you people. But that's the situation that we find ourselves in. All right, guys, before we get to the Q&A, I want to talk to you guys about Raycon. As you guys know, about once a year, I like to go off the grid for the month of August. It is once a year, actually. But as you can imagine, unplugging is easier said than done. And what about the other 11 months of the year? I still need my time away from screens and devices. As you know, I try not to tweet on the weekends. Fortunately, by putting in my new Raycon wireless earbuds, I have found a way to reset my eyes without missing the important content I need to do my job and live my best life. Whether you're catching up on Rubin Report episodes, listening to the audiobook version of Don't Burn This Book, which I read myself, or powering through your workout with a pumped up playlist, a pair of Raycons in your ears can make all the difference. These things are seriously super, super clear. With no dangling wires or stems, Raycons come in a range of stylish colors and always with a comfortable in-ear fit for a more discreet look. Raycons are built to perform anywhere and any time with water and sweat-resistant construction and Bluetooth that pairs quickly and seamlessly. And with enough battery life for 6 hours of playtime, you can unplug for a while. The best part, Raycon makes great sound accessible to everyone with wireless earbuds starting at half the price of other premium audio brands. That's right, they're cheaper than Apple earbuds. Raycon's offering 15% off all of their products for my listeners, and here's what you got to do to get it. Go to buyraycon.com/Rubin. That's it. You'll get 15% off your entire Raycon order, so feel free to grab a pair and a spare. That's 15% off at buyraycon, RAYCON.com/Rubin, buyraycon.com/Rubin. And now back to me. All right, guys, so we got a ton of questions. I told my guys to mix it up. I did a quick scan, but I haven't even read all these. We're doing them on the fly. So here we go. Jeremy says, what is your prediction for the timing of when the mainstream media and the left turns on President Biden and forces him to resign? This is a great question because, I've been saying how, if you watch YouTube shows, if you're on Twitter, if you listen to podcasts, it's like basically everybody knows something is severely wrong with Joe Biden. And as I always preface, every time I talk about this, I take no pleasure in that, but there is something obviously cognitively wrong with the President of the United States. At this point, I would argue, and I think anyone sensible would argue, it's probably a national security threat at this point, right? He often doesn't know where he is. He forgot the name of the defense secretary the other day. Then he forgot that the defense secretary works at the Pentagon. What do you call that outfit over there? He mumbles through a lot of things. He mixes up words. Sometimes he's not sure where he is. All of this stuff. Okay, so it's a massive, massive scandal, except we seem unable to talk about it because they won't talk about it on CNN or anywhere mainstream. Why is the New York Times? Why has nobody written anything anywhere yet? So if you're one of the blue anon people, right, you're just sort of a blue-pilled person that only pays attention to mainstream, you may not know it. You may not see it because if you're not online, you wouldn't see all of these clips that go viral. So then we have this reality war where some people see reality as it is because they see these clips, and then some people only see the filtered version that gets to them through mainstream media. So I think there's two things here. There's two ways that this can basically go down. Either he's going to have like a sort of full breakdown publicly where, you know, the teleprompter goes out and he just genuinely has no idea where he is or what he's doing. And it's, by the way, gotten pretty close to that. I mean, the other day when he forgot the name of the Pentagon and his defense secretary, you know, he's reading off a teleprompter. It's not like they just let him go out there and talk. So, you know, if the prompter breaks down or he can't read it or whatever it is, something is going to happen where it will become so obvious that then people will have to step in. But actually, I think this second one is the one that will be probably more realistic in terms of happening, or probably will happen first, I would say, which is that the pressure will become too much to bear for someone in on the conspiracy, right? Because everyone knows it. Dr. Jill Biden knows it. She is basically abusing her husband at this point. Barack Obama knows it. Hillary Clinton knows it. All of the staff knows it. And they all know it, and they're all keeping a secret. And the thing is, you cannot keep a secret like that for too long, because as it starts leaking out more and more, and as their friends and family, I'm talking about the staffers and all that, say, hey, is something wrong with the president? How's your boss? Like, something's up. Like, somebody will start leaking it. And then once it starts leaking, because someone's going to want to get ahead of the story, right? Because my guess is actually people will end up in jail. Like, this is a scandal. This is a true scandal. That basically people will want to get ahead of the story. They will want to be like, hey, I was the one trying to tell people, you know, there was something wrong with the guy and, you know, we had to do something. So I will break the story, and then they'll write something in the Washington Post or something, or they'll be interviewed by somebody, probably Tucker Carlson on Fox News or something like that. So I don't know how long it's going to last. My guess is this can't go on probably much more than 6 months from now. But, you know, the machine's got a way. The swamp's got a way of protecting its own, and they can hide him, and he still hasn't done a press conference, and he didn't do a State of the Union and all that stuff. So we shall see. Lance says, if Trump runs in 2024, do you believe DeSantis is the running mate or Abbott of Texas? My gut feeling is Trump is done running. I think he probably is enjoying life right now. You know, one of the things he's been doing, he's been kicked off Twitter, so he can't tweet, but he's been releasing these very, very short sort of Twitter-style press releases that then people pick up and put on Twitter. It would actually be hilarious. I mean, if I was Trump at this point, or Trump, Don, if you're watching, you should be releasing 10 press releases a day. Just like treat press releases fully like Twitter, and just have regular people just be promoting your stuff on Twitter all day long. Are they going to kick everybody off Twitter? Maybe they will. I mean, honestly, maybe they will. But I suspect that Trump likes the sort of outsider thing. I think in a certain way, he's better suited to be an outsider. And I discussed this the other day, but if you take a guy like DeSantis, who I would vote to be president in no time, right? I would love for this guy to run, okay? Not only I think he's got the right ideas and didn't destroy Florida in the midst of the pandemic, I think he's 48 or 49 years old. We need some young blood in there. He's shown that he's willing to stand up to the system, but is he willing to go all the way and fight them the way Trump did? That takes a particular type of firebrand. It takes a particular type of wiring, and I don't think everyone has that. So what, to me, Trump should be doing is, I'll be the bad guy. I will fight all the fights so that you guys can be somewhat respectable, because, you know, a ton of people that I know personally and in comment sections and emails and everything else would always say, you know, I've really come around on Trump on the policy stuff, and I get he's fighting the media and all that, but it's just the personality stuff. It's the grab him by the pussy. It's all that stuff that I can't get over. So if Trump can sort of act like the bad guy, which he's already framed to be, and then help some of the quote unquote more respectable people get in, that seems better. The one thing I could maybe see him doing, and I mentioned this the other day, someone said this to me in Florida, was that Trump could maybe run for governor of Florida, have Ron DeSantis then run for president. That maybe seems like something, but I suspect he's probably just going to do it from the outside. Kathleen says, with all the changes at Disney Plus regarding Dumbo, Peter Pan, Aristocats, etc., do you think that Disney will now require Donald Duck to wear pants? Great question, Kathleen. You know, yesterday we covered this story, how Disney, a few months ago, it didn't get uncovered till the last few days, but they moved Dumbo, Peter Pan, Aristocats, which yesterday on the show I called Aristocrats, which is a very, very different movie than Aristocats, and Swiss Family Robinson. They moved them from the children's section on Disney Plus to the adult section, which is just crazy at so many levels. It's not censorship. It has nothing to do with the First Amendment. But just like this idea that a child shouldn't be able to select Dumbo because they're going to see the birds and then suddenly become racist. I mean, it's just completely idiotic. But your question, do you think Disney will now require Donald Duck to wear pants? I mean, I know you're being funny, but like, they're going to come for everything. I was getting an illegal haircut this morning. My girl may even be in my house right now. Hopefully the stormtroopers don't show up and knock down the door while I'm on air. And my girl said to me, she said, well, what about Miss Piggy? Because Miss Piggy was basically sexually accosting and physically abusing Kermit the Frog all the time, right? Kermit wasn't really into Piggy. Piggy was beating the crap out of him. She beat the crap out of a lot of people. You know, I'm pretty sure she raped him at some point. Like, there was definitely something going down there. We didn't see it all on air, but like, you know, they've got to come for everything. Whatever it is you love. You loved the show Cheers in the 80s. You loved the show The Jeffersons in the 70s. You loved whatever it is. You loved Friends or Full House or whatever show came out yesterday. This thing is here to destroy everything. And a few people have been saying this online, but I have come around to this. Get physical copies of things. Because just wait till they just start deleting all sorts of things and deleting people's Apple accounts and deleting your cloud storage and all the movies you've bought and everything else. It's kind of funny. Like, we all had a friend that had like a huge DVD collection, and it's like, what do you have all that crap for? Well, that guy's going to be sitting on a pile of gold once they start getting rid of everything else. Freedom Fan says, who's your favorite founding father and why? You know, I've mentioned this a couple times, but I would say Thomas Jefferson, and there's arguments to be made for all the founding fathers in many ways. I think my personal preference to TJ is that when I was a kid, I was probably about 11, 12 years old, we went to Monticello. That was his home in Virginia, and it's a phenomenal estate, and they give you a tour, obviously, and you see his bedroom and his writing room and just the full estate and how wonderful it is, and it's also just gorgeous there. So I had like this attachment to Thomas Jefferson when I was a kid. I've been there many, many times, probably about 8 times over the years. And when they give the tour, they talk about the complexities of a man that was a slave owner, also writing the laws that freed the slave. They don't deny that he most likely had relations with at least one slave, which by modern definition, I mean, you can't own a person, thankfully, but if you were to own a person and have sex with them, that would be rape by modern standards. But we're all just people of our time. That's not an excuse for anything. It just is what it is. But they address it very honestly and forthrightly. They show you his desk, like his writing desk, which is just really great. And there's just something about, because I've been around it as a kid, like it just sort of like got into me about Thomas Jefferson. And I would say the other thing about Thomas Jefferson is that if you're ever allowed to go to DC again, I know it's like a military compound right now, and there's just nobody on the streets there. And you may remember I was there, about 2 months ago? Yeah, I was there in December, and I did a video with Kyle Kashuv walking around DC, and it was deeply depressing because you only saw homeless people on the streets. And this was before the January 6th incident, where now they've just put barbed wire everywhere and fencing everywhere and everything else. But if you ever make it back to our nation's capital, the Jefferson Memorial, which is a little off the beaten path. Everyone goes to the Lincoln Memorial, they go to the Washington Memorial, they go to the all of the main stuff that's in just the main mall there with the water and everything. But the Jefferson Memorial is a little off the beaten path, and it's just spectacular. It's just spectacular. Obviously they've got the big concrete version of Jefferson, but they've got some of his writing on the wall. I've posted it on Twitter a couple years ago. It's just great. Ania says, it looks like there will be a recall of Gavin Newsom. What do you think the actual chances are of electing someone better? So this is the $1 million question. The recall is going to happen short of the deeply corrupt Democratic machine here in California just eliminating hundreds of thousands of votes, right? Because as I said before, we now know we have over 200,000. There's been an independent audit where they're saying over 1.8 million of those check out. We only needed 1.5. We've still got 5 days to keep getting more votes. People have had it with him. You may remember the other day on the show, I read this tweet from foolish old socialist Bernie Sanders, who's saying that this is radical right-wingers that are doing this. And no, it's regular people who want to go back to work and go back to their restaurants and go back to the gym and all of that. It's people who are mugged by progressive reality, you old buffoon. So look, my guess is the recall happens, but your question is the actual chances of electing someone better. So this is where California, I don't know, I always say maybe it's just the nice weather, although it's hailing out today, that people are sort of fried mentally here. And they don't seem to realize that they keep voting in the very people who raise their taxes and who destroy the education system and who increase the levels of homelessness and drug use on the streets and all of those things. So My hope is some good people will run. My hope is maybe Adam Carolla runs. My hope is Rick Grinnell runs. Are they electable? I don't know. But I would, at this point, short of like an out and out, like avowed communist, I think anyone would be better than Gavin Newsom. He is the exact type of entitled millionaire politician who must go away. He's like Andrew Cuomo. You got to go home now. Actually, you don't got to go home, but you can't stay here. You got to get out of here. Forrest says, when you have kids, will you homeschool them? So as you guys know, we are working on kids. I mentioned a few weeks ago that our surrogate did have a miscarriage. It's a whole process. Life works in weird ways, obviously. But we have started the process again. I don't want to talk about it too much now because I don't want to put the cart ahead of the horse here. But will we homeschool them? Well, I can promise you this. There is no way in high hell that I will send them to public school or even private school here in California. My feeling is we got to recall this guy. And if we don't, then maybe I just got to get going. But I want to stay here and fight as long as I can. And when we did our live meetup for our locals community last week, we had about 100 people at a bar in LA. Everybody was begging me to stay. I will not raise kids here around this lunacy. I just simply won't. Why would I bring a child into this world to be brainwashed, to believe all of the things that are completely against the things that I believe and the things that I fight for? So that's not to say that there aren't any decent private schools and charter schools here in LA. There are a couple. Most of them are religious based. But I think homeschooling is becoming more and more of a norm that makes sense to a lot of people because, I wrote about this in Don't Burn This book, but one of the last things that allowed me to say, hey, I am still a liberal, I'm still an old school liberal, is that I did believe that there was some role for the state in public education. But now that it has been wholly infected by the disease, the mind virus that is social justice, I just don't believe that anymore. So I think we probably would homeschool them, or my hope is that there will just be more and more charter schools and small schools popping up all over the country, and that will be a better way because I run a show here. I can't have children screaming all day in the house. Jay Pete says, with the onset of Daily Wire jumping into entertainment and the creation of social media tech like Locals, could we be seeing a subtle shift back to some kind of balance, or has sanity lost its foothold forever? So first off, what the Daily Wire is doing by creating movies now, actual content, going in a direction like Netflix is phenomenal. Candace Owens is launching a new live talk show, live studio audience talk show, old school, Sally Jesse Raphael style. In I think next week or in 2 weeks or so. I'm sure I'll be a guest on at some point. I can't wait to get down to Nashville and just do a show with live people. And Candace is wonderful, and I have no doubt she'll be a great, gracious host. So they're going into not only movies, they brought Gina Carano on after the whole ridiculousness at Disney Plus that we referenced before. So they're going to make movies, they're going to make more talk shows, live studio audiences, all of those things. Then there are tech companies like Locals where we're building the tech so that everybody has the tools to get off big tech. If you are sitting only on YouTube and Twitter and Facebook and you don't have some off-ramps and you don't own some of your stuff, have a server in your house or have backup of your stuff, or if you're a creator of any kind and you don't own your audience information, contact information, if you don't own your data, if you're just a regular YouTube creator and you edit your stuff and then you upload it to YouTube and you're using that as storage, you're going to be screwed one day. So I think that there are a lot of reasons to be hopeful for the future because people are building things. It still ain't going to be easy. There's problems with Amazon servers. There's problems with the Apple App Store and Google Play Store and all of those things. Like, we know all of those things exist. But I believe in the human mind. I just fundamentally believe in the human mind. Brian Savage says, it's Aristocats. Yes, I addressed that earlier. I called it Aristocrats, which is a very funny movie, but very different than Aristocats. Sonoma Lady says, since the governor shut everything down because he had emergency powers, and now that there isn't any emergency because, as everyone sees, the numbers have dropped like a rock, why isn't everything opening back up? This is a great question, Sonoma Lady, and you mentioned emergency powers. Can we put up an image of Emperor Palpatine? And as you remember, Emperor Palpatine, what happened? What did Emperor Palpatine do? Well, I've got the exact quote here because, after he got into that incident with Mace Windu and the whole shebang, He said in this very image here that what he was saying was, in order to ensure the security and continuing stability of the Republic, we will be reorganized into the first Galactic Empire. The reason I mention all of this is because once politicians have power, they want more power. That's why the Star Wars prequels are good, because it's all about accumulation of power. You create a war, you create a crisis, you create a pandemic, and then you get more power. Our wonderful politicians now with this $1.9 trillion COVID relief bill that has almost nothing to do with COVID relief, and they're going to give some of us back $1,400 of our own money. They like the power. Then they give you your money back and you go, thank you, thank you. This is what we have to understand. Palpatine got it. Palpatine got it. You create crises to accumulate power. And remember what he said right before that, a little bit earlier in the movie. He was saying once this disaster, no, once this crisis, I think he says, once this crisis is abated, I will put down these emergency powers that you will have given me. Guess what? He didn't put them down. And then about 20 years later, Luke had to throw him into a pit. And then he ended up coming back, and then there were some crappy movies about that. But you get my point. The reason that they don't put their power down is because if you're in politics, you like power. You like power. All right, let's move on. Let's skip that next one. I already did Star Wars. Enough Star Wars, people. Excuse me. If you had to assign yourself and your team to Seinfeld characters, who would you be and why? Boy, geez. I guess I would be Jerry in that. The idea of Seinfeld was there was this like crazy world with these crazy characters, and Jerry was just trying to sort of stay sane in it. Like he was using comedy to like relate to the world in a way that made him seem sane, and there were just like a bunch of odd characters in it. David absolutely loves Elaine, so I would say David would be Elaine and I will be Jerry. Russell44 says, will there be a Rubin meetup with pets? I love this idea. Clyde would love to meet people, and often when I'm walking Clyde gets recognized more than I do at this point because I got a freaking mask and sunglasses and a hat and I look like I'm about to rob a bank. So everybody wants to meet Clyde. We are doing a meetup in Orange County, in OC, sometime soon. I'm in touch with Chef Andrew Gruel. We're going to do it at one of his Slapfish locations. We're trying to figure out all the specifics. I got a little bit of family visiting the next week or so. We're going to put this together probably, I would say, within the next month. Let's see. And also because, things are opening up, so we'll be able to do things indoors. Imagine human beings gathering indoors to eat food and drink and laugh. What a world indeed. The Zone says, what are a couple of your non-negotiables? I like this question because I quickly glanced at it and I was like, well, it depends which way you're asking me. Non-negotiables, so you mean just sort of in life, just like in life. I would say, in terms of like the type of people I like being around, I'll do it this way for you. So, the last year has been pretty bananas, not only because, I released a book and the show's gone well and all that kind of stuff, but building locals and getting into the tech world, like I'm spending more time in that world now than I am in this world in a certain way. Like I just added another job and another career into the mix of it. And I can tell you this, when I've been fundraising, when we've been talking to tech people, I love people who are doing things and just make decisions and go with it for better or worse. Now, you're going to make some mistakes along the way when you do that, but I can tell you we're in the midst of fundraising right now, and we'll have some announcements by the end of the month. I think in about 2 weeks from now, some like great stuff is happening, really, really great stuff. And I wish I could tell you now, but I just can't. But what I can tell you is when you go into these meetings with people who have gajillion dollars, and you're telling them, well, this is why we want to raise the money, because we want to put this much towards tech and we want to put this much towards customer acquisition and all that stuff. And by the way, with locals right now, we have put zero, that's not a white supremacy zero, that's just a regular zero. We put $0 into advertising. Everything that we've done with locals, in essence, has come from me, and then we've brought on great people like Scott Adams and Greg Gutfeld and Tulsi Gabbard, and then they promote it amongst their own networks. But we've really, we've done it in many ways in a reverse way than most big tech companies do. Most big tech companies get gajillion dollars from huge VCs, and then they just pour money into everything. We've actually focused on building a good product first, And now we're trying to raise money to get it to the next level. But what I can tell you is this. I've been in meetings where there's a lot of people, they just want to hear themselves talk. They love meetings, and you're in Zooms with 18 boxes and heads, and everybody's just pontificating. What I like, and I've had a few people like this, that you get into a meeting with them and it's like within a minute, they're like, all right, I'm in. What do you need? What do you want to do? Here's how I can help. Blah, blah, blah. Like, I like people with like vision and that don't want to bullshit and just make something happen. You know, it's ironic, I suppose, at some level. Like, I'm so sick of people just talking. And I get that. I'm an interviewer and I talk for a living. But like the talking about talking, and let's talk about the next meeting we're gonna have, and let's talk about our feelings and all of these things. Like, I like people who do, not people who talk. You can talk, and there's some value in it for sure. And free speech is important, okay? But I like people who do, and I can't wait to just tell you all about the things that we've got coming, because they're great. Chris says, Dave, as a fan of the Golden Girls, what are your thoughts on the one season of the Golden Palace? Chris, it was a disaster. I actually once went, so first off, for those of you who don't remember this, The Golden Girls was on NBC for 7 seasons, and then when it went off the air in May of 1992, then it was reborn as The Golden Palace on CBS in the fall of that year. B. Arthur, who played Dorothy, she left, and then it was the other 3 ladies, and then they added Cheech Marin as a chef, and they added Don Cheadle as like the hotel manager. And the Golden Palace was a hotel, and basically Blanche and Rose and Sophia ran a hotel. There was only 1 season of it. It's horrible. It's on YouTube. I have tried to watch it. We still watch Golden Girls all the time on Sundays. We watch a couple episodes. Golden Palace, it's just terrible. I actually once went to USC and they were doing a little talk about the Golden Girls, and they had Betty White there and a couple of the Golden Girls creators, and which guy was it? Tony Thomas, who was, I think, one of the original producers. Somebody asked him about the Golden Palace, and he goes, that fakakta show. And it was just a nightmare. They didn't know what they were doing. Why did you have these old ladies running a hotel? And also, this sort of gets to the question about Seinfeld earlier. What a good sitcom needs is you need like the sane character sort of in the middle, because then that lets all the crazy people do all the crazy stuff. And Dorothy, who is played by B. Arthur, who references some classically liberal principles in the Golden Girls show, she was sort of the center of the show. So once you removed her, then you had just a bunch of crazy people. You had the slut and the idiot and the old lady, but you were missing like sort of the meat of the show. So Golden Palace was absolutely terrible. Margot says, are you going to adopt any more critters? There's been an ongoing debate in this house about getting another dog. Now, first off, as I said, we're working on expanding the family of humans first. So we're putting most of our energies there. Clyde is a little nutty. Clyde, he loves to jump on people. He loves to chew literally anything and everything. We've had him trained a little bit. Turned out that the trainer was a social justice warrior. Literally, the trainer, you would not believe this. Like, I don't know how, I don't think I've mentioned this on the show. The trainer, we got Clyde in around April, right? Like right as the lockdowns were beginning. So right about a year from now, maybe it was March even. And I think I've told this where I heard that all the shelters were gonna have to put down the dogs, and I just ran there. And we weren't ready to get a dog yet because Emma had just passed away. I was also supposed to be on a book tour. We wanted to take a break, probably not get a dog till the fall. But then I was like, I'm just not gonna let all these dogs be killed. I saw Clyde, they already had a paper signed, he was gonna be killed later that day. Grabbed Clyde. Anyway, we get him trained. The trainer then, who it was very obvious, like we kind of didn't see eye to eye on life, he decided Clyde's last week of training, which I guess is where they teach them everything because he didn't teach them that much in the few weeks before. He called us one day and he was like, I can't, I'm not going to train him anymore because I'm going to be spending my time going to the Black Lives Matter rallies. And the way he said it was like, like I was supposed to be like, you're such a great person. You're not going to do your job anymore, and go ahead and do that because that's more important. Anywho, Clyde is nutty, and he's got a ton of energy, and he's part boxer, and boxers are known for just endless energy. And boxers are known also because they're always punching, right? Boxers are always doing this. So he jumps. So every time I enter the house, he jumps, and then he tries to punch my balls. So he's always going after the balls. It's a height thing. I don't know if it's directly to the balls, but so I've been kicked and punched in the nuts a lot over the last year, more than the average person for sure. And we got to deal with that. So maybe we'll get another dog. I don't know. We'll see. Kevin says, my brother-in-law thinks that the insanely woke cancel culture storm is just a blip and insists there are simply too many regular people in America who merely want to be left alone to live their lives and follow their dreams for the storm to continue. I want to believe him, but should I? I think he's right at some level and wrong at some level. So I think he's right in that I think 80% of Americans are live and let live. I think the vast majority of us are okay having some political differences. I think most people don't care what you do in your bedroom. I think most people, if you act decently and honestly, I think most people want to let you live your life, and that's just great, and that's the way it's always been. The flaw in that argument is that there is an ever-growing brainwashed group of young people and really bad people up top, the leaders of BLM, of Antifa, of the progressive movement, who want to get into every part of your life. And this is the challenge. This is the challenge for anyone that's liberty-minded in any way. I just want to live and let live. I just want to own what I own. I want to live my life, and I don't care what you do. Well, okay, that's great if the other guy is willing to agree to that. But if the other guy is always, but I want more of your stuff. I want to tell you more how to live. I want to indoctrinate your children. All of these things. Well, now we got an asymmetry here that needs to be dealt with. So the problem is that even though he's right, that most people, most regular people, his words, most regular people want to be left alone. If you've got this ever-moving monster, this mob that is looking to destroy all of our past, destroy all of our art and comedy and cartoons and history and take down monuments and all of that stuff, well then our sort of live and let live attitude isn't the thing that's going to stop it. So the thing that's going to stop it is we all got to get braver and speak up about it. So I think he's right and wrong, and hopefully he's willing to get in the game as well, because just sitting there quietly ain't going to fix it. Char says, Dave, do you actually have time in your schedule to read any of the books you refer to on your show, or do you have your team summarize? I have 6 or 7 books in my queue daily, and I barely have 20 minutes, including Don't Burn This Book, much less time to write your next book. You must be Superman if so. So I'll be totally honest with you. When I started the interview show 5-6 years ago, I used to read every single book, like cover to cover, and that's how I would conduct every interview. I can't do that anymore. I simply don't have the time. Not only I'm working on my second book now, but Locals, as I said, has sort of taken over my life. We've got so much more going on here. We've got several businesses and employees. I also have to be able to enjoy life. I love what I'm doing, but I mean, I also have to be able to take a break every now and again and everything else, and can't be like just constantly running on more political stuff, etc. So I don't read all the books. As an interviewer, I would say sometimes you want to read everything in the book, and sometimes you don't. I think sometimes knowing a little bit less is better. So for example, the interview that I did with Jordan Peterson 2 weeks ago about Beyond Order, he's got 12 more rules in there. I did not, well, first off, I only got the book a day before, so timing-wise it was going to be tough. But I felt, if I go in with a little bit less, because I know Jordan so well, so I know a little bit about each of these 12 topics, and then I can sort of just hand it to him to curate everything that goes on in those chapters. I felt that was the best way to do it. Sometimes you really want to know more. So every now and again, I'll read a couple chapters. Sometimes I'll read the full book. Sometimes I don't really have a chance to read much of anything, and Michael will summarize it for me. It's a mix of everything, and I try to do it in a responsible enough way that I know enough. But I would say that most interviewers probably don't read any of the stuff. And the amount of books, trust me, one day we should just give away a ton of books, right? We have so many books, so many people send us books, multiple copies of books. I do give books away to the local library and things. We have so many books here. Maybe one day we'll just do like a big giveaway on the Locals community, and I have signed copies of a gajillion things, and I just don't have room for everything. Storm says, non-political, who was your favorite Transformer? Mine was Generation 1 Optimus Prime, and my brother's was Generation 1 Soundwave. Well, Storm, I've got Generation 1 Soundwave. This is my Soundwave from childhood right here. I'm going to transform him right in front of you because I still can do it without a flaw. Now, I do have to show you one thing. His head has disconnected from his body. So here's Soundwave's head. I'm just going to put that down for just a moment. I'm going to transform Soundwave. Look, as I said, he's old. This is from like 84, 85. His little cassette just popped open there. We are going to transform Soundwave. Obviously, you get the legs out first, you bust out the feet, You're going to take out the arms. You're going to get the hands down. Okay. And then there you go. And now you've got Soundwave right there. That's his head. I should glue that back on. We should glue Soundwave's head on here. I'll just hold that right there. There is Soundwave for you. And if you press the button and it's not working as well because it's a little busted, you're going to open up the cassette player. And who do we have here? That's right. We've got Ravage the Panther. Okay. So yes, Soundwave was my favorite. I also loved Starscream, who was the plane, obviously, and he was always getting into a fight with Megatron. And he was voiced by the same guy who voiced Cobra Commander in the G.I. Joe cartoon. Oh, and as long as I'm busting out cartoons and speaking of G.I. Joe, I've got my old school Storm Shadow right here. As you can see, as what happened with most Transformers of the day, his crotch is completely blown out. It was just a design flaw. I mean, he was having a good time, but it was just a design flaw in the toys. And I've got my original Boba Fett right here. That is the original Boba Fett. When Michael saw this, he started freaking out because apparently there is a Boba Fett that you could have got around probably 82 or so, that the rocket, there was a button and the rocket would actually shoot out, and that thing's worth like 10 grand right now. This is just regular old Boba Fett. So there's Boba Fett, and he hangs out with Storm Shadow and Ravage and Soundwave in a little box, and it's on the set, by the way. We keep it right over there. All right, people, I think we did a little bit of everything. We did some politics, we did some family life, we did some culture and some TV. It was a wide swath of information today. Hope you enjoyed it. By the way, a lot of people commented. You know, I was a little dour yesterday. I was a little sort of more agitated than usual. And I felt kind of weird. Like the show wrapped and I was like, man, like, is this shit getting to me? And, you know, usually, and I think probably one of the main reasons you guys come to me for this stuff is that I don't leave you feeling worse. And I do try to put a positive spin on some of this stuff. And I don't think politics is everything. So I do think we will be okay and all of that stuff. And I think this is just the story of humans that has been told a million times before and will be told a million times again. And it's a headache now because of social media and everything else. But I was like kind of banged up after the show yesterday. I was just like, man, just one stupid story after the other, and they're just destroying everything, and there's just so much crap all the time. And then I did jump in the comments, and I was reading what everybody said on Locals, and it was like a lot of you sort of appreciated the honesty in it, that, you know, for as sort of pleasant as I can deliver some of this stuff, that, you know, I'm just a human too. So I appreciate your feelings about my feelings. I'm having an illegal dinner party tonight. Don't tell anybody. If you want to perhaps see some insider pictures, join us at rubinreport.locals.com. Part 2 of my interview with Fox News host Dana Perino is up on YouTube right now, and the full episode is already up ad-free over on Locals. Oh, and tomorrow we're doing a Friday panel because it's Friday, and that's what we do on Fridays, the Friday panel, because it would be odd if we did the Friday panel on Wednesdays. And we're going to be talking about COVID and just general health. Because, you know, one of the things is we're now finding out that body mass index and obesity and diabetes and a bunch of other health issues and comorbidities had far more to do with the people that died with COVID than just COVID itself. So we're going to have 3 people on to discuss. Max Lugavere, who's been on the show before, Gina Florio, and Dr. Jay Bhattacharya will all be on the show. I will promise to pronounce his name better tomorrow once we have him on the show. And we're going to sort of unpack what some of the actual science is behind some of this stuff, and I'm sure we'll talk about lockdowns and the rest of it. Okay, I got a hectic day, so enjoy it, everybody. Get out there, have fun, be free, and I'll see you tomorrow.